Back in November of 2019, I took a look at Retro-bit's 2.4 GHz wireless Sega Saturn pads, and quite liked the way they turned out. They felt really close to the real thing, and I had no trouble at all playing my favorite Saturn games. This past week, Retro-bit sent over their new black and white wireless Sega Saturn pads for me to have a look, and in this episode, that's exactly what we're gonna do. To be clear, Retro-bit has not paid for or sponsored this episode beyond providing me the controllers themselves. In fact, I have purchased 5 officially licensed Retro-bit Sega controllers with my own money, which includes the pad used in the original video. Since I believe these products are great for the Sega community, I had no issues at all doing an episode covering these new releases. So let's take a look at the 2.4 GHz wireless Sega Saturn pads. These controllers retail for $35, which is no small amount for a retro-focused gamepad. Fortunately, right out of the box you can see the quality is as solid as the Sega originals before it. These include storage cases that nicely hold all of your cables and receivers, as well as some literature about connecting them to the various machines it supports. It comes with 2 of these receivers. One is of course for the original Sega Saturn hardware. It looks like the original plug, so you don't have any odd looking protrusions like you did with the old school infrared receivers from years back. The second receiver is a USB plug for the likes of the PC, the PS3, and the Nintendo Switch. You also get a 3-foot charging cable since these controllers have built-in batteries. The boxes themselves are a nice sturdy cardboard with foil graphics in a few places, and they display great with the rest of your Saturn collection. For $35, you get a well-made product with everything you need to get started. These are first and foremost Sega Saturn pads, and just like my original review, these new pads are fantastic. They feel like the originals with only a few slight variances. The plastic is very good quality, the Sega emblems are representative of their original regional styles, and the D-pad and buttons perform pretty much flawlessly in everything I could throw at it. The aforementioned variances are a slightly looser D-pad that can be a tad inaccurate in games that really need pinpoint separation in the up, down, left, and right directions, but since the majority of what I play are shoot-'em-ups and fighting games, this rarely came up. The shoulder buttons also feel different here, with a much more pronounced click than the original pads. This ends up actually being a good thing, because I think they actually feel better. Also, like my original review, I had no issues at all with lag or dropping connection. Every game I tried had no perceivable issues, no matter the genre I tried, and connecting the pad was as easy as pressing a few buttons to get started. Yep, these guys are still as solid as they were last November, and I couldn't be happier with the end product.
Come on, baby.
With those of you looking for Switch and PC compatibility, it's here and just as easy to get set up as it was on the Saturn. When connecting to your Switch, just hold the pairing button until it flashes rapidly, and then press start on the controller. You might have to press start a couple of times to get it to see it, but once it does, it's done. Make sure your LED at the top of the pad is red when using it with your Switch. I went through some of my retro games on the console and tried Shinobi, which after a quick change to the button mapping, I was off to the races. I also tried Thunder Force AC, which played great, and I even started up Fast RMX, which again played really good. As long as the games you are wanting to play has custom mapping and uses the digital pad, this is a great choice. For the PC, it's much the same. A quick pairing and boom, I was playing Bloodstained like a champ. Again, as long as your game uses the digital pad and has mapping options for the buttons, you should be okay. If the LED at the top is red, you are in direct input mode. But if you want X input, simply hold down Start and B for a few seconds and it'll turn blue. I tried this across some of my Steam games with no issues at all. The documentation that's included lays the groundwork for getting the pad up and running on these platforms, so be sure to consult it if you have any questions or problems. I also wanted to show you that these work with the Sega Genesis Mini. Plug and play, no mess, no setting up, and no pairing to worry about. And it works great too. If you want a great wireless solution for your new mini console, it's a winner. Lastly, for your Raspberry Pi and do-it-yourself types, this pad works great with project builds. Blast 16 picked right up and allowed me to map my buttons with no issues, and each game I played performed exactly as expected. I also tried this on my Super Nintendo Pi build, and it again worked like a champ. Bottom line is that this controller fills a huge amount of jobs and I didn't have a single problem with any of them. I'd also like to take a moment to update you on the status of my first Retro-bit wireless pad that I did the original review on. I have used it as my main Saturn controller for all my capturing purposes since then, and it has performed nearly flawlessly in the process. Only my D-pad being a tad loose has been of any concern. I had heard of people having trouble with the C button sticking, but I have not had this issue at all. None of my buttons stick on this one or the new ones, so I can only speak for what I've seen with my own experience. At the end of the day, it really boils down to how much it bothers you to be tethered by a cord. For some of you, you really don't mind draping a 10-foot extension across the old game room to play your Saturn. For those of you looking for a less cumbersome option, I do recommend these Retro-bit pads quite a bit. For $35 you get Saturn, PC, Switch, and PS3 compatibility right out of the box, and a build quality that is solid for a third-party controller. Across my testing, I ran into no issues to speak of. Everything paired well, and once I had a go at mapping my own interface, it was all good times. I suppose the real question when looking at products like this is, do the games you want to play support custom mapping of the controls? As long as the answer is yes, you can make this pad comfortable with just about any game in any genre. Years ago, I was quite the critic of Retro-bit's products. I felt their stuff was cheap and, quite frankly, a waste of money. They've made a believer out of me in the last year, however. While nothing will ever replace the original equipment in terms of nostalgia, these new offerings have a solid place among my retro collection. I'm Sega Lord X. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.